A few years ago, I got a call from a former client. It was 3 months after he closed on the business he'd been trying to buy for almost 2 years. The deal was everything he wanted. Solid revenue, good margins, a competent staff that actually knew what they were doing. And when I picked up the phone, I was happy to hear from him. And he said to me, "Matt, I don't know who I am anymore." I mean, that's not what you expect to hear after someone finally gets the deal they've been chasing for 2 years. And it wasn't burnout. It wasn't regret. It was something nobody warned him about. If you're thinking about buying a business, or maybe you just did, this episode is going to be for you. Hi, I'm Matt from Beyond BST. I've spent the last 25 years building companies as a serial entrepreneur and helping small business owners avoid costly mistakes. Welcome to my channel. Hey, quick question before we dive in. Have you ever hit a goal you've worked months or maybe years toward and then were completely blindsided by how you felt once you got there? Let me know down in the comments. I'm curious how many people, recognize that feeling. Because here's what everyone focuses on when you buy a business. It's the important stuff, the financials, the due diligence, the negotiation, the transition plan. But what almost nobody talks about is what happens inside your own head in the weeks and the months after the previous owner drives away. And it's just you. In this episode, we're going to get kind of personal. We're going to talk about the emotional shifts that hit almost every new business owner and why understanding them before they arrive is one of the most important things you can do to protect yourself and the business that you just bought. The first shift is that you don't feel like yourself anymore. And I don't mean that in some overly dramatic way. I mean it very literally. Before the acquisition, you had a certain identity. Maybe you were someone who evaluated opportunities, or someone who built things from scratch, or someone who finally was about to own their own thing. The moment you sign the papers, all of that is gone. Now you're just the new owner. But owning something that already exists with its own culture and rhythms and expectations is a completely different identity than anything that came before it. You walk in on day one and the staff just kind of looks at you and you'll realize they're not going to tell you what to do. You need to tell them. And that shift from being evaluated to being the one who evaluates takes longer to absorb than I think most people expect. And if you resist it, if you stay comfortable by acting like a peer to the people who now report to you, it's going to create problems for you, for them, and for the business. Guys, that's not failure. It's just a transition. And transitions take time. And just as you're starting to figure that out, something else is going to start to creep in. Here's the part they leave out of the brochure. Owning a business can be lonely. Now, it's not always, and definitely not forever, but at the beginning, it can feel profoundly isolating. And here's why. Before you owned the business, you had a lot of people to talk to. Maybe a partner, a mentor, a colleague in a similar spot, or even just your boss at work. The moment you become the owner, most of those conversations change. You can't vent to your staff. They need to see stability. They need to believe you know what you're doing, even on the days that maybe you're not so sure. You can't vent to the previous owner because, they're wrapping up their own chapter. And let's face it, they're not your therapist. Your spouse or your partner, if you have one, is probably watching you for signs that this whole thing was a good idea. So, who do you actually talk to? That question, who do I call when things feel hard? That's one of the most underrated parts of the acquisition process. And here's what I've noticed about the business owners who navigate this the best. They built their support circle before they actually needed it. It's a peer group, maybe a business coach, someone who has sat in the same chair you're sitting in. Because when you're 3 months or 6 months in and revenue is tracking below projection and you're making decisions you've never made before, that loneliness can really start to feel like incompetence. And trust me, those are two very different things. If you felt that, maybe even just a little, hit subscribe, because this is the stuff most people don't talk about, but we do on this channel. And it's where good decisions start to break down. And if you stay in that space too long, it turns into something else. And this one is the most dangerous: imposter syndrome. In this context, the voice in your head sounds something like this: what if the staff figures out I don't actually know how this works? What if customers find out there's a new owner? What if the previous owner only sold because they knew something that I don't? That last one, by the way, it's really worth paying attention to. Not because it's necessarily true, but because it's the kind of question that keeps good operators sharp. The healthy version of imposter syndrome is probably humility. The unhealthy version can be paralysis. And the line between the two is usually whether or not you've normalized what you're feeling. Here's what I want you to hear. Every operator or owner I've ever respected, myself included, every single one of them, we've all felt this. The ones who struggled are the ones who believed the feeling meant something was wrong with them. The ones who came out stronger understood it for what it actually was. They understood it was evidence that they cared enough to worry. And guys, that's not failure. That's clarity. So here's what I want to leave you with before Thursday's episode. These feelings, identity confusion, loneliness, and imposter syndrome, they're not signs that you made the wrong decision. They're signs you made a real one. Nobody feels these things about a decision that didn't matter to them, that they didn't really honestly care about. The fact that it's harder than you expected means you're taking it seriously. And that's a good thing. And truly, that's the mindset that gives you the best shot at making it through those first 90 days and 6 months and coming through the other side even stronger. Because the goal isn't to avoid these feelings, it's to recognize them before they start running the business. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, please like this video and give me a subscribe. And let me know in the comments too. I often look there for new topics. Now, take a breath. You've got this. All right. What's next?